Right, welcome back to the program. My name is Victor Oloo. You are watching Good Morning Kenya. Now let's take a look at what's happening on The Viewpoint today. And with me, I'll be joined by Hamisi Mboga, who is a political analyst and governance expert. Let's just have to dissect some of these issues that have been happening since last week to this particular point. First of all, Hamisi, good morning and good to see you. First, again, how is Mombasa doing? About Mombasa?
Thank you, Victor. We are doing very well, and thank you for inviting us on this show. We are always happy to make some contribution. Mombasa is cool. It's not hot, but it's not that cold like Nairobi.
Yes.
We're doing very well.
Absolutely. A lot has been taking place in the country over the past few days, and if you take a look at the front page of the Daily Nation, pressure piles for Uhuru-Ruto handshake. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. And Hamisi, let me just give you a brief. Religious leaders, political allies, and community elders are now pushing for reconciliation of the two most powerful men in the country. Hostility between President Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto went a notch higher towards the end of last week, when the latter's security detail was downgraded. First of all, let's start with the issue of handshake. How possible is this, Hamisi?
Well, thank you very much. I've been following the happenings of political scenarios in Kenya. This is a good one. I don't know why it's coming late, because I think there's so much damage that has been done that it may take longer, it may be a very difficult hurdle to be able to bring Uhuru-Ruto handshake. But in politics, everything is possible. But I have two things. If you look at it politically, it is quite possible. But the only thing that I suggest is, if it came, they should have been advised, and then that initiative should have come from one of them or all of them. The president and the deputy president can call each other for a cup of tea first, because their followers are still bashing each other. They are bashing the opponents. And without ceasefire, I can't see a handshake. As late as yesterday, you can hear, and you can see people bashing the opponents. So you cannot reconciliate, you cannot create a handshake in that scenario. What could have been done is they should call a few people from each side. They sit down, they create, that handshake is supposed to be created. That handshake is supposed to have a text. That handshake has to have some suggestions that will cool the temperatures on both sides. So if they do that, it is possible. I know the religious people have said they want to come in, but to us, some of the religious leaders are also on both sides of the divide. To be able to reconcile people, you need a referee. A referee is supposed to be a bit neutral, not a bit. It's supposed to be neutral. But you see, in this case, we are in Kenya. We see each other. If it is somebody who is coming from the Raila side and somebody is coming from Ruto side, then they should have talked and they should have brought this. It is possible, but I think it's a hard mountain to climb.
The question many people would be asking is how possible can this get, having in mind that President Uhuru Kenyatta and Honorable Raila Odinga have enjoyed a very kind of a cordial relationship in terms of how the government has been run for the last 4 years. The question somebody would ask is that, what will the political implication if at all this happens?
If it happens in politics, everybody is playing the cards to have a stake. If it goes up to 2022, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga will have a higher stake in terms of interest covered, because as you work together, as you visit each other, you are creating that rapport. That relationship is growing. And somehow, even if people who are outside the team, they will see a leader. Because in politics, you talk about leader. if the leader is appealing and if the leader can tell you, let's do this because of XYZ, I think Raila will have a big mileage compared to if there's no handshake or if there's no relationship, if it goes on like that. Two, they could have a kind of a record. Say, since we shook hands, this is what has happened in the government implementation of the services. That will be a mileage for Uhuru's late, a mileage for Raila, that if you work together, you can achieve more, even if you don't have the same kind of political opinion. So I see an advantage to Raila if it goes out. If it doesn't, then somehow you can see that the other side is playing. If we bring a handshake, Uhuru-Ruto handshake, it has implications. Where will be Raila in this game? How will the game be played? Because now the teams have been established. Remember, we were shocked when we saw President Uhuru Kenyatta and Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga shaking hands at Harambee House.
Yes.
Many of us never expected, but it has happened. Now it is almost going to those number of years, and it's working. So my issue is what will happen to Uhuru-Ruto and Uhuru Raila if the two types of handshakes. The understanding is the handshake is creating an environment where people live happily. We don't have quarrels. We have good relations during the voting and during the campaigning and the voting period. People don't fight. The kind of things we were told. So what will be the content of this Uhuru-Ruto handshake? Will it be totally different from this one? And if explanation of that kind of handshake, what is it going to gain? What will be the value? That is, the leaders have got too personal right now, to a point of if you don't play with emotions, if you don't play with a lot of resilience, it may not be the right time to correct it. The kind of personal attacks that are coming, I wish they could completely cool down and see what happens, and then form teams to look at what are these issues that are affecting the relationship between the president and his deputy that can be sorted out. What are those things that cannot be sorted out?
Yes. Allow me on Hamisi. We've seen the relationship between the president and his deputy. It's an open script that it has gone south over the last years. But then the question of them coming together and forming a team to bring, trying to bring them together once again, that somebody would say would bring a lot of kind of hard moments, because something has to happen for them to come together and have a handshake. Just the other week, his security detail was withdrawn. That's just enough to show how bad the relationship has gone up to this particular point. We just few months to an election. How do you think this can be possible for them to have that handshake? Because we can imagine the president and Honorable Raila Odinga had, some backstage kind of agreements before finally they walked to the front doorsteps of Harambee House.
Yes, and that was what I was saying originally. There must be a whole background, there must be some homework, there must be some discussion, and undercover. You call it undercover or behind the doors before it comes out. Because when it comes out, it has already been agreed. We are told that the president and the former prime minister had agreed, and they were coming out of Harambee House laughing and smiling. In Africa, when you see somebody is smiling, there's something good behind it. So this if it has to be done like that. But I think now we have hit the roof in terms of the attacks, name calling, so-and-so is corrupt, so-and-so is matapeli, I don't know, give me the English word of matapeli. So if you don't understand it, it will hit you so much. What are they saying? Somebody has to come in very fast, and it can be done like my suggestion. Ceasefire, cool down, prepare teams. We don't want to hear, if that is happening, we shouldn't hear anything from Ruto's side attacking the other side. We don't want to hear people from Uhuru's side attacking. The Kenyans will know there's some ceasefire, and it will create a kind of impression there is something going on. But if it goes on like that, it may hit the roof. Where we come from, you can joke with somebody, all things, but if you touch their wives, you will never reconcile. I'm talking about where I come from, Scotland. We are Scottish. So if we don't take care of this, it may reach that level and it may not come back. So this handshake and this removing of security, to me, is not removing. I think it was changing. It's an issue. Changing or removing is an issue. It has been reduced from this number to this number. I don't have the real figures, but I'm told from 70 to 30 or something. So, and also changing from this caliber of officers to this one. So to me, it's a change. But sometimes a change can also give you some messages. And that is what worried some of the people from the deputy president camp. Will he be secure as he was with the other team? And some people are saying, all these are security officers that are there for us. Can't they do what these other people do? So those are really, it's really a debate. Let's discuss about, but security was not moved because we could see that the president of team of the then you are so the issues, politics will be there, but this was a change. We can say how the change is because everybody has their own perception. Some people say, I think somebody, these APs are the sharpshooters in Kenya. If somebody plays around, I'm told they are faster and they are even as good as any other officers. So having that background, we can say we have two issues. The Uhuru-Ruto hand issue, the security of the deputy president is an issue, and I'm told it's going to parliament tomorrow. I don't know which direction it's
for Interior, that is Fred Matiang'i, is expected to be grilled by the House Security Committee at 10:30 a.m. We'll get into that briefly, but let's just take a look at this issue once again. The clergy says that they have confirmed that they're trying to bring Mr. Kenyatta, that's President Kenyatta, and his deputy to put aside their differences for the sake of peace of this particular country. Hamisi, haven't we enjoyed peace in the country? Why would they talk of peace in the country? All right, okay. All right, we have lost Hamisi Mboga there. We are trying to reconnect with Hamisi Mboga, who is joining us live via Zoom from Mombasa County, just talking about issues that we are trying to interrogate further on this particular issue. We've been talking about the pressure that is now building for President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto to have that handshake, and we're trying to dissect it for us to understand. We understand that mediators argue that political differences between president and DP could entrench animosity ahead of polls. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Okay, so we're still going on with this discussion. Welcome back. The technical issues are there, but nonetheless, we'll have to continue with the show. We are trying to interrogate this issue of the pressure that is now building for President Kenyatta and his deputy to have a handshake, the issue of political leaders, the clergy, and some of the political leaders, the clergy and the community leaders and the elders are now trying to bring the two together to have a handshake, which they argue will be good for the peace of this country. So they say that mediators argue that political difference between President Kenyatta and his deputy will ease that tension ahead of 2022 polls. My guest is Hamisi Mboga, joining me via Zoom from Mombasa. If you have him. Perfect. Yes. Hamisi, welcome. This is the sweetness of having a live transmission and technology at this particular era, something that we will have to embrace. Okay, so let's just get...
I know this.
Yes.
This is the new way of life.
It's way of life, so we have to embrace it as well. Now, the issue of the... If at all this happens, where would that now leave Honorable Raila Odinga?
Yes, in fact, I was coming in very fast to say the first handshake, never had it until people were shaking hands. This other handshake, it has been initiated by the clergy and the religious people. And that has a challenge. The moment you open it earlier now, you'll see a lot of stakeholders will come in, say, I was not consulted. The religious groups that are there could be other religious groups say, we were not part of that decision. So I think there's that challenge. First challenge is the group. People will claim a stake. You know, in any political scenario, people want to come in. You remember even the handshake between the Right Honorable former Prime Minister and the President of Kenya. Some people are saying we were not consulted. And that started the problem which we are seeing up now. This can create another one. Who formed this team to be able to consult the President and the Deputy President? The religious groups are many. Are they all there? Are they all represented? Do they have one stand? That's a challenge. The other one is, which I see typically is, where will Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga be put?
Right.
He's already in handshake with the president. Are you calling also, because these religious people did not mention the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, why don't they call the two? Because we are relatively peaceful right now because of the handshake. If you leave Raila out right now, how sure are you that this other second handshake will not create new tensions? Why can't, if they really mean business, why can't they call the 3 or even the 5 leaders we have in Kenya and talk to them about Kenya? Call Raila Amolo Odinga, the president, the deputy president, Mheshimiwa Mudavadi, Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, and Mheshimiwa Weta, as we see them as front runners in our politics. Call them on a table. And one time I was reading a philosophical book, said, close them in a hole and say, don't come out until you give us the wax off.
Yeah.
Then you'll have cooled the country. But the moment you leave some people out, we are experiencing the handshake problem between the president and Raila, because some people who are not covered, they are not informed, so they still have some grudge inside. If you do that, you are creating even bigger. Are we going to be peaceful? So those are the two bigger challenges that they see. The third one, the third point is, it is possible. It is early enough. People can consult, they can come together, and then create a rapport. Then, as I suggested earlier, cease fire on political statements until we see the direction of this one. So, but if it goes on and Uhuru shakes hands with his deputy without considering the other factors, we have not solved the problem, because the other people will also come up. the role that Raila is playing now, will he continue playing it? The role that the deputy is not playing now, will he play it now? There are so many scenarios on functional provisions into political provision, and also the first, I'm not there, the first of I'm not, how we're not represented. There are really issues that should take a little longer to be sorted out.
Right. Absolutely. But then somebody would argue that this could be a ploy to President Uhuru Kenyatta to make about turn to support his deputy ahead of 2022 general election. In the past, the president said that he will support now the defunct NASA only if the principals come together and agree on one candidate. That would be so abrupt if at all it happens that the president would have that handshake. Perhaps somebody will ask, could this be a possible situation where the president would say, the difference between me and my deputy is beyond repair?
Yeah, either two things. One, the differences may be too wide to be able to narrow them down. That is one way, and therefore let's go on the way we are until the end. We have only about 8 months to go. But the other way around is, if you say now I'm going to work with my deputy full hand, this element of dissolving the other handshake. We are told there were some key issues, there were some signatures. We are not informed about, we don't know the facts, but we are told that there is an understanding. Are you going to first break down that understanding between the president and Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, dismantle it or include it? Because it has implications also. Yeah. While they were shaking hands, there were implications. Are those implications now resolved or solved? And that there is this bill that was coming to change some aspects of the constitution is a factor in this scenario, in this handshake. You can hear that the deputy president is hitting hard on the BBI up as late as yesterday. And the other people love BBI like the day before yesterday. It's an issue. Let's not leave it out, because there are strong feelings, strong positions that have been created. How do we narrow that down also? So I think either way, it's going to be very, very difficult, because as I said earlier, I think we have hit the roof. The only thing is to come down now. Yeah.
All right. At this particular point where we are as a country, the deputy president and his boss, that's the President Uhuru Kenyatta, it's an open secret that they don't see eye to eye. Give me a picture, if at all it happens, paint for me a picture of what would look like after that, perceived handshake that is now being fronted between the president and his deputy from other quarters. Just paint for me a picture of how the whole situation would look like. Hamisi.
Yeah, before handshake between the president and Raila Amolo Odinga Mheshimiwa,
yes,
there was that kind of wall. There was that kind of barrier. But the moment that barrier was resolved, you hear these days, you see me and my brother here.
Yes.
You need that kind of medicine between the president and his deputy, and that will take a very strong influence of some people who can really identify the key things that should keep them together and the key things that are keeping them apart, and destroy those things that are not keeping. So we are saying there is a lot of homework to be done. Is soul searching. This political language of abuse has gone too high. We have commissioned that we have commission that is called to look at hate speech. But if I look at it properly as an analyst, the bigger the people, the more hate speech they have. How are we solving these issues? So to me, there's a big challenge. I don't see it come very, very quickly. But we must agree that politics is a game of possibilities. It can be done, but people must go to the back room, keep a team in the back room, sort out all these issues that are keeping them apart. But a factor is you can't remove Raila from that handshake until you break that handshake understanding, memorandum, whatever. And if you do that, you have created another. So you must weigh which is better, to go the way we are up to the elections, or to break that other issue that this country is now very as far as concerned, very.
And just to weigh in, assume that before the handshake, remember the president said that before they had that handshake, him and Honorable Raila Odinga were holed up at Arambe House, all of them looking at each other for close to 1 hour, just sipping tea. Perhaps what the president said, habari ya mama, wako salama, habari ya kazi, nobody was able to talk. The kind of tension that they had before that walk out through the doorsteps of Arambe House, and finally they shook hands. Somebody would assume that a lot took place behind the scenes before that handshake. So the question I would want to ask you at this particular point, Hamisi, is that for President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto to have a handshake, perhaps one of the handshake partners, that is Honorable Raila Odinga and President Kenyatta, one of them perhaps should step down first before the president and his deputy can have a second handshake. So is that even possible at this point?
No. As far as my analysis say, no. You can hear the politicians are saying, I'm not going to turn back. I'm not going to give up. If you hear our leaders saying that, they have created a position. And it may take a bigger turn around for the worse if we don't handle it properly. Like, for example, if tomorrow President Uhuru Kenyatta says, hakuna handshake mimi na Raila, that is one statement, but it has a lot of implication. Implication. You can hear the Kenya that has gone quiet, that it has never been all the time quiet. It has been made quiet because of the environment that has been. So for the president to have a handshake with the deputy president, this has to be done properly by the two. But I suggest a softer way of doing it. If there's a meeting tomorrow, why don't we invite the deputy president? Or why doesn't the vice president attend? If there's a wedding that the president is attending, why can't we see the face of the deputy president without even saying we are going to have a handshake? There are so many ways of creating an environment. People will start saying, oh, by the way, I think now they are together. And then the language that comes out from such a meeting, the respect language, our president, our deputy president, sema kitu hapo, unaonaje? It has to be created. And then you have to have warriors. Sometimes when you are fighting, you may not be wanting to fight, but some people, I can see a lot of the dramas. They are not Raila, they are not Mheshimiwa Ruto, they are not the president, like, they are pushing those people. Hit him properly. So those are also have to be looked at. In fact, they should be stopped from saying, for now until we sort this one out, no comment. And it can be cool. Let me give you a scenario. I don't know. My observation for the last more than 1 year is ODM is so quiet in terms of those issues that they used to. I think there was something that was talked to them. Cool down, these things is going to work. This other side also should do the same. For example, if Mheshimiwa Deputy President stands tomorrow and tells his troop, from now on, hold on, I'll sort out this matter. You remember one time when members of the Rift Valley and also those who are aligned to the deputy, after the first time, they're saying, now it is our time. And then we had it in Jubilee from the other side, no, let's give President Uhuru another term. There was an acrimony, the only person who called it off was the deputy president. Said, "Don't worry, I have a formula. We shall do this." So you need a leader to be able to come out and tell these troops the war is not over, but we're just retreating to re-strategize how we can move forward. Hiyo inaweza kusaidia hii maneno ya Kenya. But you can't solve a problem by creating a problem. If you destroy the handshake of Raila and Uhuru, and you create a handshake of Ruto and Uhuru, you have not solved the problem. You have closed one door, you have opened another one. We need to have them close all of them or opened all of them.
Yeah.
And there are silent politicians here. Silent politicians who are watching. We need to consider everybody. Everybody has a stake. You have to consider all of them. If you go either way, they will bring spanners in on the way. They have members in parliament. They have members in Senate. You may need some decision to be passed. You may need them. So all these must be considered. The parties themselves, let's question the kind of parties that we have. Are they personal, driven by personal initiative, or are they mass units of association? And if you don't sort that one, for example, I'll give you my analysis. If Mheshimiwa Ruto today says UDA is over, I have a party called X, all the troops will go to X. This is the scenario that it is there. So let's look at a way of making sure that the proposed handshake is handled properly and it doesn't rattle the earlier handshake that has kept us quiet for some time.
I believe the handshake between President Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga is somehow ring-fenced. It's not just a simple handshake as people would perceive it to be. There is a lot that goes behind that particular handshake. So the question I would want to ask you, what is that one thing that would make the president say the handshake between me and Honorable Raila Odinga is completely gone, and now I'm having another handshake with my deputy, of whom they've had, that rough patches in their second term?
It's going to be very difficult because you need to also have the same process or a similar process between the new one and the old one. What is the process now apart from these religious leaders? I believe the religious leaders could assist in that process. What is the process that can bring these people together? What those elements that can be said? It's not only issues to do with the religion. This is stake. This is politics. This is personal. And this is, we are talking about 2022. So they should, whoever wants to bring these people together should not leave somebody out. That's my recommendation. If they do, it's a zero. It's 2 + 2 - 4. It's always 0. But if they add some value into it, they add some consultation. This issue of consultation has really made some roots in Kenya. Why don't we consult? We can consult as fast as possible. 8 months is a long time in politics, and also it's a short time. But it can give you some space. In a week's time, you can create a team that will look at all these, say, this one I know is misunderstanding, leave it out. This one is a really issue, let's address it. Those issues that were happening in BBI, why don't we bring those soft issues to Parliament and pass them before the end of September? People will see some changes that are coming, and they will understand. But if you bash them out, people had 2 years, 3 years talking about it, and you're saying it's useless.
Yeah.
That alone is not very good for those people who have strong belief. And people who have been left out also should be considered. I know we were moving, but now we can include everybody's opinion on this one through structures like Parliament, National Assembly, and Senate. You can smoothen out some of these things, but time is running out because people are now looking at positions. Shall I join ODM for possibility of getting into parliament, or the UDA or Jubilee. Some people are saying Jubilee is dead. You can never say something is dead until it's been buried. Eh?
Yeah.
Let's handle it.
Okay.
It may resurrect. And then
the other question I would like to pose to you at this particular point is that then where would this leave Honorable Raila Odinga and the entire ODM brigade? Because you've said that ODM has been so quiet. They have experienced and they have enjoyed some relative peace, and they are going about their business pretty well. So where would this leave Honorable Raila Odinga and his supporters, so to speak?
Especially, I'm not worried about Honorable Raila Odinga, because he has a lot of he can handle pressure. But his supporters will rise, and you may be surprised quite a lot in terms of what they're able to do. Because it's like we have been cheated. People are now watching. Are they really brothers, Uhuru and Raila? Are they really shook their hands? The moment you betray it, even thinking about betraying it, you have destroyed this country in terms of peace and stability. Because they can rise up again. Yeah, they can rise up. They are not very few people. Because if Raila has had 6 million people, plus or minus, even if they are 5 million, even if they are 3 million, if 3 million people rise up in this country, you will notice them. So let's not play that game. It won't be peaceful.
Okay. Perhaps you can also argue that the president and his deputy, if at all they have that handshake, that should be like a direct endorsement between two bosses who've never had some good working relationship, and then all of a sudden it happens. Somebody, or perhaps you'd argue that should be like a direct endorsement, because that is now what people are waiting for, to see where President Kenyatta would directly throw his bait on.
Yes, and when President Kenyatta shook hands with Raila, many of us said, oh, that is an endorsement. Because number one is a very critical position.
Yes.
What you say, how you move, how you behave is interpreted by different people to mean differently. Yes, it will be direct endorsement to the deputy, and that to some people on the other quarters will see it as a betrayal between the handshake of Honorable Uhuru and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Yeah.
And that to me again has implications. This thing is delicate. It's a delicate issue, only that it's a political issue. And political issues will always be sorted out by political discussion framework. And it can be these leaders who can influence. I'm looking for leaders who can influence the 5 people to come back together on a table and make this Kenya the way we want it to be. If you just bring Raila and the Honorable
Hamisi, allow me to, and perhaps just tell you to tilt a bit your zoom, because there is some direct light from behind your camera there. Just make it properly. I think we are good to go now. That's good enough. Good enough. Good. So yes, maybe you can continue just with your comment, please.
I was saying that the time has come right now for those brains, the Kenyan brains, to come together on a round table and write a recommendation report that will bring people. If you say you are bringing people together, bring all of them together. Don't bring them together halfway or half-hearted. So if I was to advise, let it be there, and this one can be led by the president. Let it be there for a forum first, 1-to-1, and then call the leaders together. Because if you call if you bring them together, some may not, because there's Mheshimiwa Kalonzo wants to be president, Mheshimiwa Raila wants to be president, Mheshimiwa Mudavadi. If you bring them together fast, they may not be able to stay there, but immediately after the meeting they say, I'm still in. So let them bring the people together and on a table and say, politics or no politics, we need peaceful Kenya, we need development in Kenya, and we must do it very peacefully. That is one. The other one is, what things can we put in place so that we have that peaceful transition, that peaceful election, so that we can be able to save Kenya. And three, I think we may reach a point where we can't use the kind of language that is coming on the platform. People are being influenced. Children and young people, and those of us who are below, who are behind these other people, can still use this language during campaign, and it can be a terrible thing in terms of who is who. If you call each other names, then we are in trouble. Let's call each other Kenyans, and then we move together. And in the distribution, let me go back to my original. All this is about the distribution of resources, the distribution of political seats, the distribution of facilities is key in the political setup of our country. People are worried that if so-and-so gets, all this will go to this side. If so-and-so gets, somebody was saying, just analyze. 2013, let's go to parliament. Let's go to look at the structure of the executive. Where are these people coming from? They are Kenyans, but which side is it? Now, 2017 to 2018, let's look at it. Is it fitting into the Kenyan system that everybody is somehow reached? So I think we've started there with distribution of positions, distribution of resources, distribution of the scenarios that everybody feels this is my home. We shall have peace. Election, I don't mind who becomes the president, but I mind if there's a peaceful transition, peaceful ways of working, economy is good. The rest, we can't all be president. There's only one chair. So even if all these friends of wars are crying, 2022 shall have only one president. So look at the alternatives. What else can we do to be able to build? You can still build the country in a different position.
Okay, Hamisi, well, that might happen. And at the end of the day, there is that peaceful and, that the seamless transition of power come 2022. Do you think Deputy President would be so much interested, with having a handshake with with his boss, President Kenyatta, right now?
No, I can't see it unless a miracle happens. But miracles are possibilities. I can't see it now because I think they have gone too far in terms of widening the gap, but still, it can be done. It can be done. We are all human beings. We can always be pulled back and say, please, pull down. The bigger thing is country, Kenya. The bigger thing is our peaceful existence. The bigger thing, if somebody schools us again, I know we know, but if they remind us that for us, we don't all have to be the president of this country, but we can all benefit from the system that we create for the country to run. So it is possible, but it is very difficult. As my opinion, it is very difficult to bring those two people together. And their lieutenants are terrible. They are putting wood into the fire, into the burning fire, and that can destroy. If people say you're being considered as this, show them that the muscles, If you look at those who are behind ANC, those who are behind ODM, those who are behind Jubilee, those who are behind UDA, and I can still see some challenges coming into these parties as we approach 2022. Already there are some parties that are quiet, but they will erupt. They'll rise up, and you have bigger scenarios. But those don't matter very much if we have controlled the top scenarios. And economy is one of the biggest things that will change this country. If you talk about economy and how, and you can demonstrate, what I'm worried about politics is, say we can do this. Let's do it now because we have 8 months. Can't we do a pilot? Can't we do a small thing? That in science, we do a small thing, you say, so if you do this, it can happen. Then you magnify it. But we have 8 months, and let's not give a lot of promises. So if we join the president in terms of providing the services the way they have suggested, you'll have a platform at the end of it to say, yes, we did this, and if you give us time, we can do more. And legacy is very important. The president would like to live here or anywhere else proud that when I was in that position, this is what we did. That one will be safeguarded. If you try to threaten that legacy, you are touching part of the president. This is the way we see it in politics.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Allow us to stop it at that particular point. Thank you so much. That is our political analyst and governance expert, Hamisi Mboga, joining us live from Mombasa via Zoom. We've been talking about that perceived handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto, which is being fronted by the religious leaders, some of the community and elders leaders trying to bring them together. We're just trying to look at the possibilities and what are some of the factors that will be considered before that could happen. We are not yet done. We are taking a very short break. Doreen is up next with the traffic, and Jen will be back with more. Stick around.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope I've added value to our discussion.